during that time, I was always traveling. And when I was traveling to meet friends or acquaintances, I would bring my beers too, but bringing my beers was a little bit too heavy, and for what we can get out of it, it wasn't the best gift to bring to a lot of people. So I ended up bringing a lot of single malt whiskey, and because of that, I brought like Asian single malt whiskeys to my friends in Western countries, and they would always say, "Oh, where's this from?" And I'd say, "Oh, this is from Japan. Oh, this is from Taiwan." And those are the only two, mainly back then, before it went crazy. And they would always ask, "Why don't you bring Korean whiskey?" And I was like, Korean whiskey is not that good. And it wasn't really made in Korea either. So I was like, no. And then that got me thinking, why is there no Korean whiskey? And people telling me, "Bryan, you got to make Korean whiskey." So again, the opportunity was there. I saw the opportunities for success and how I can do it. Luckily, I had gotten a little bit older and wiser, and more importantly, I pretty much had experience in how to build not just a company, but an alcohol-related company.
At this point, have you exited from the venture, or?
No, not quite. Okay. We had written down on the contract that Bryan Do is going to be making spirits, and it's not going to be related to beer. So they, back then, was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, forget it. We're not into whiskey or spirits." Now they would like to be into it, but back then it was like, "No, we're not going to be into that." So yeah, go ahead, do what you want.
This is Anheuser Busch.
This is Anheuser Busch. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do it, and went about pretty much the same way, finding someone who could build a distillery and run the distillery, and had started to build a small team. And at the very beginning, for the first year and a half, we only had, including me, 5 employees. Because there was nothing much to do except make whiskey, just make, stack. And I did everything at the very beginning. Literally, I commissioned everything. I bought all the stainless, and we just put everything together. I was doing everything except for making whiskey at the beginning. I was trying to make the standard operating procedure for someone else to take it from me. And I think I did that for about a year by myself. So driving a truck, working the forklifts, taking in tons of malt, taking in barrels, did all the grunt work at the beginning, so I know how everything runs.
Can you tell me about the process of finding the right place for your distillery? I believe it's in Namyangju.
Yeah.
So why did you choose Namyangju?
We chose Namyangju. Andrew Shand, our master distiller, and I chose Namyangju after a exhaustive search all over Korea. And we chose Namyangju for a few reasons. Number one, it was close to Seoul. I really wanted the tourism aspect of it, and the ease of logistics of being in Seoul, for not just for the product, but also for the people and my employees, and for me to go back and forth. Number two is we chose the location in Namyangju because it's on top of a hill facing north. It creates a very, very cold winter because the sun doesn't set over the mountains during the winter, and it just gets, once December hits, it just starts to get colder and colder and colder, and the liquid never goes up. It just keeps on going down until the springtime, and then it starts going back up again. And third is Namyangju is known for the clear water, crystal clear well water. and we needed plenty of well water for what we're doing. So those three those three reasons were the biggest impetus for us to choose Namyangju, and I'm very happy we did.
Did you expect your first batch to taste the way it did? What were you going for?
No, when we made Kiwon, Andrew and I were very not at odds, but we were kind of debating on what are we going to make this taste like. There's a bigger burden for being the first in anything that you do, and because we're the first single malt whiskey in Korea, there is the naming. What are we going to do about the naming? It can't be a foreign name. It has to be a Korean name. Number two, the taste. It has to as you know, and when you go to a distillery, every distillery has a pretty unique flavor profile that each distillery has, or each region has. And I've always been a Speyside fan ever since I got into whiskey. So I told Andrew, okay, I'd like a Speyside profile, but with an Asian twist, a Korean twist to it. So we were sitting around one day thinking about it and went to lunch. And this is after a few weeks of debating what we're going to be doing. And, the side dishes come out first. So Andrew and I are eating panchan in the local eatery, which is full of just laborers. And it's nothing fancy, but you get the smorgasbord of panchans, and then you get your main dish. And that day the main dish was 제육볶음, spicy pork fry, I guess.
Yeah.
And we both looked at each other and go, that's it. It's got to be spicy, but it's got to be the Korea gochujang spicy, which is different than an Indian spice or a Thai spice, or different spices that some have more heat and just more pain, but I think Korean spice is a longer drawn out spice. However, it's got more depth and sweetness to it. So we were trying to figure that out, and how we're going to manifest that into the production of whiskey, and through some trial and error of on our fermentation side of making the wash, we ferment at a higher temperature, and we ferment for a longer period of time, and we stress out the yeast a certain way, so we're able to make that character, and it's shown on our first batches. We're really excited about it. After the first year, we initially thought, okay, Korea, we'll give it about 5 years, and then we'll start launching our product. This was June 2020. And then after year one, we were tasting some of our product that we had laid down in virgin American oak. And we were going, wow, this is really turning out good. The color's good. The color is like so dark already. And the taste doesn't taste like a 1-year whiskey. There was still some heat to it, but we're like, wow, this is maturing fast. And then that was in the summertime of 2021, and then came the wintertime of 2022, and it took on another animal in itself. And we were thinking, okay, there is something good about this maturation process that we got going. And not quite year two, 1 year and 9 months, we had some competitions to enter, and mainly we were entering these competitions to get feedback from the judges. They give you a pretty good feedback from world-renowned judges and people that have been tasting whiskey for a lot longer than we have. Not Andrew. Andrew knew that it tasted really good, and I knew it tasted good, and the people that we're giving it to was like, oh wow, this is good, but it's only 1 year and 9 months. But we sent it out to IWSC and San Francisco Spirit Awards, two of the biggest or most prestigious competitions in the world, and we came back with awards rather than
just the feedback.
Comments and feedbacks. IWSC, we got a bronze. San Francisco, we got a gold. We were basically in the same category as a Yamazaki 12 or a Cavalon soloist. And we were a bit dumbfounded because we're like, wow, this is only a year and 9. We know it's good, but we didn't know it was that good. And then that kind of cemented what we had initially had thought, that it was good. And at this time, I literally was leaving for overseas. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to stay overseas for a year or two because back then I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't paying myself. And all the company was doing was pretty much just stamping out whiskey. There was nothing for me to do. The only thing I could have done was maybe started speaking to politicians earlier and trying to change the liquor laws in Korea again.
Does that require a lot of drinking?
No, not really.
Oh.
Not really. It's not as shady political lobbying as it sounds.
Okay.
It's pretty much basically upfront. It's what constituents will want anyways. We had a proven model through craft beer, and it's once they reduced the taxes on craft beer, more players came in. It created more tax money for the government. It created more jobs for the youth. It created tourism for the regional areas outside of Seoul. It was a no-brainer.
And puts Korea on the map.
Yeah.
Well.
It's a no-brainer. So it's actually a no-brainer for whiskey also. And I'm sure the politicians will do it in 2 years' time. It just makes sense. So anyways, yeah, because of that, I had already bought my airplane tickets, and I was moving abroad with my daughter. And after a year, everybody was like, man, and I was going back and forth, and I was tasting the whiskey, and I was like, oh, man, this is really good whiskey. And I didn't want to toot my own horn or be biased, but it was really good whiskey. So we were entering other competitions and getting, good results too. So my master distiller and employees were like, Bryan, you got to cut your overseas stay short. I was initially trying to stay for 2 years and then come back in time and give myself 1 year before launch to get things ready. But they were like, yeah, just come back now. So I literally just had to pack things up and come back after a year. And we launched 3 months after I came back, getting the packaging and the bottle and the label and the branding and everything.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah, we had to do that really quickly. Yeah, and so far we're really happy with the outcome. We're still growing. We're not there yet. I think in a year or two it's going to be so much better. We're looking forward to that time. Yeah.